So yeah, first off, welcome back. Um, and we got as far as we were almost done with chapter 16. So what we covered essentially was the first present, um, which, well, in the most basic version is just your subject plus an adverb, the basic adverbial sentence. Παρέμετς im, the man is there. But you can also expand that into an adverbial expression, something like Su gedamiut, he's upon the road. And then you can, of course, instead of having a noun there, you can put an infinitive in. So, παρέμετς χερσάτζιμ, the man is upon hearing, which is basically the man hears. And that's really the cool thing. That becomes the standard first present in late Egyptian. It was very well established as the pseudo-verbal construction in earlier Egyptian, but there it had sort of like a present continuous meaning. I'm currently listening, but in late Egyptian you can use it for I'm listening right now to you, or it could be I generally listen. That so-called nomic tense, I guess. Would that be a tense aspect? Well, whatever. It can just mean general as well.
Could I ask a dumb question? Which is, where does this term first present come from? Because I didn't come across it in Middle Egyptian.
Coptic comes from Coptic because Coptic has first and second tempora, and sometimes also even a third one. Like in the future, you have a third future, and it's basically coming straight from Coptic. It's a good question, actually. And let's see. I mean, you still have your basic Sejam F around, but it has different meanings than in Middle or Classical Egyptian. In late Egyptian, your Sejam F really only has two functions. It can be past tense, or it can be prospective. You may, you will, etc. And there's the other quiz. Hi. But in late Egyptian, if you just want to say something is ongoing or something always happens, you use the so-called first present instead. That substitutes a lot of the functionality that would have been taken over, or would have been taken over, that would have been expressed by the Sejam F in classical Middle Egyptian. So the pseudo-verbal basically expands its meaning. And the other thing that happens is the little preposition khar drops out over time. So it basically becomes paremech sejim, or in Coptic then ebrome sotem. And what you can do also, instead of having an infinitive there, you can put a stative in there. So for example, in this case, paaten, paru, or something like that, emacheti. The sun has risen in the horizon. And this here basically is not an infinitive. It's not is rising or rises. It's not a general statement, the sun rises in the horizon. But in this particular case, it's a stative. Although as I'm saying that, yeah, if you wanted to make that a simple first present, you'd probably use an M here. If you wanted to say the sun is currently rising in the horizon, it would be paitin M peri, M acheti. So normally with verbs of motion, if you want to indicate that something's currently ongoing, you would use the preposition M instead of khir. So that's how we can be pretty certain that this is a stative in this case. And the meaning then is has risen. So something that has already happened, as opposed to the infinitive, which is indicating something that's currently ongoing or that normally happens. I'll talk about that more in a moment because there's some nuance to the stative. And what I wanted to highlight, though, is to your question, Chris, essentially formally, those look pretty much equivalent. You have a subject, and then you have a verb as soon as the khar falls out. And the verb could be an infinitive or the verb could be a stative. And that's how it later appears in Coptic, where you basically have an infinitive, or the stative is then called a qualitative, but essentially it's the same thing. In Coptic, they look like they're two different related verbs. In reality, they're grammatically two very different things that over time merged into a very similar construction, the so-called first present. So that's the long and the short of it, why it's called what it's called.
Aurelio, just going back to that, one way that I found it helpful to understand that stative or qualitative is in English, old-fashioned English, you say the sun is risen. So you get the idea of the present, and then the past is in the risen.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, the sun is risen.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. You can think of it. That's also why the thing is called a pseudo participle, because it's behaving like our risen past participle. So that's where that alternative name for stative is coming from. Really good point. You're right. So I'm not going to go through everything again, but just really high level. We had discussed these a few times. Subject pronouns of the first present, the ones that start with to. That's what you use if you don't have a nominal subject, but a pronoun. And going to the stative, I think that's where we ended the last time. So what does it mean? It depends a little bit of what kind of verb you have in front of you. So hang on. If it is a transitive verb, like for example, to be robbed in the first sentence, is that transitive? To rob, to steal. So something that happens to a direct object. In that case, if you see a stative, it really has some kind of like passive perfective meaning to it. So like, for example, here, tui chaitu, that is a stative, tui chaitu em taik emra, in your harbor. I've been robbed in your harbor. So basically, I am now a person who has been robbed. I am now robbed, but well, I'm not robbed. Something was robbed from me. But I'm in the state where I'm now, I guess, bereft would be the participle we could use in English, of something in your harbor. So the stative there basically has like yeah, like a passive participle kind of meaning in with transitive verbs. Similar here, Pawensu, namely the donkey, ditu naf, because the donkey is allocated or given to him. That basically, it's not that it's currently being given to him, it has been allocated to him, is how Neville translates it, or rather how the English version translates it. So it indicates that this allocation, this giving has already happened. And now this Su, this donkey, is in the state of being, having been allocated to somebody. And I added a little extra example just because it's very common. The stative of gemi, to find. Su gemi ucha. It has been found intact. So the gemi here is literally found. So it is found intact. In other words, somebody looked and now it is found. And how is it found? It's been found being intact. So this is actually the stative here. What else could it be? Well, it can't really be anything else, right? Because if I wanted to say somebody found him, it would be, for example, he found him would be gemi su. But since the verb is coming after the subject, that can really only be a stative. Or it could be an infinitive, of course. But that doesn't make any sense in that context. So it is a stative. Also, the spelling is not the spelling of an infinitive. All right. So that is the stative for transitive verbs. It basically describes that you're now in the state that something has happened to you, where we would normally use a participle in English. Any questions on that one? If not, then let me go on to the other alternatives. Other alternatives are intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs could be, for example, verbs of motion, to go, to enter, to cross, and the like. And here's an example. I've been talking for quite a while now, so if somebody wants to take that example sentence number 3, that would be awesome. Any volunteers?
I'll go. It may be kind of choppy because I'm on my phone.
Okay, no worries. Can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. So we have here. So this is Wajayu.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like it's a boat. Oh, that's that new or in.
Oh, the boat belongs to the verb ujai, to
Right.
cross. And then you said
Oh,
underneath.
yeah, it looks like let me blow it up a little bit more. Is that the wave of water underneath it with the pearl stroke? Oh no, sin, got it. Yeah, I
You got
didn't
it.
see the door bolt.
Yeah. And I was going to say something about that. So this is Ramesside orthography on monuments. I think it starts maybe with Ramses II. I'm not completely sure, but around that time, where you get those very stacked glyphs. You can also see it here with enti-ger. In classical orthography, you wouldn't do it. It would be enti, and it would be
Yeah.
ger, but they like to stack things on top of each other, almost like in Ptolemaic. And the problem is, of course, it makes it kind of hard to read. Yeah, you got it.
So we have Wajai. So we have Wajai Houston.
That's right. I should probably write it down as you say it. Yeah.
And then we have Ta Mashed or Meshed.
That's right. Ujjaisen. Let's just do it this way. Ta Mishdet, I think. Yeah.
And then we have Neti Her Resi Ni Kedesh or Quedesh.
Kaddish, which is the famous Kaddish, like in the Battle of Kaddish. Hang on. Let me get myself some space here. Okay. And then the second half?
Second half we have Suit.
Sit.
Oh wait, set. I thought it was a plural. Are those plural strokes or this is just
They are. It's the third person plural that becomes se in Coptic.
Set. So we have set, qua, or ak, excuse me. Mi, kenu, ba, and it's warriors is shamau, or it's shamau. Oh no, mesh.
You got it, Misha.
Meshau.
And I don't think it's plural. Yeah.
No, you're right. No, it's not plural. Yeah, it's collective. Ni, him, and that's a seated man. Himeth.
You got it. Perfect. Very well done. Okay. What are your thoughts on the meaning?
All right. So their boats. I'm gonna assume that's their boats. Is that the word waji? Wajai?
The whole thing is ujai, which is to cross.
Okay. So they cross the Meshedet. I don't know what Meshedet means.
It's glossed. It's ford, like a ford in a river.
Okay, so they cross the fort, which in the river. Well, and then the fort. So it says the fort in the river. It's a.
Oh, just the ford, basically, like, but it would be in a body of water.
Okay, which was in the south of Kadesh.
That's right. That's right.
And then we have they entered Imkhinu, something of the warriors of His Majesty or the army of His Majesty.
Right.
Khinu. They entered Imkhinu. Imkhinu in the vicinity of or in what Imkhinu?
Really inside.
Right. I was looking at it literally, but I don't kind of make sense. I mean, I'm sure we can get around it, but in the inside or the interior, Imkhinu.
Yeah. I should have given a bit of context. So it is the Battle of Kadesh, and so you have the armies there of Pharaoh, and the enemies are basically approaching across the river, and the Ak Mchenu Pameeshe in Chemif. So that basically they're entering, or I think he translated it as penetrated into the army of His Majesty. So basically, this is what you absolutely don't want. You stand there with your troops in order, and the foreign troops are assaulting you and entering into your ranks, basically.
But so they broke ranks. He broke their ranks, right?
That's right. So maybe in English we could say They entered the ranks of the army, but that sounds like they joined it, so I don't want to say that. They broke
Right.
into the ranks of the army of His Majesty. Maybe that's a good way how to put it.
They entered into the ranks of His Majesty's army. Yeah, it makes sense.
Perfect. All right. So grammatically speaking, what's interesting here is you have a Sejm F, past tense Sejm F, because it's a narration, talking about how the battle almost went south. Of course, there's going to be a happy ending in the end, but right now it's not looking too good. And so you have a past Sejm F in the first half of the sentence, and you have a stative in the second half of the sentence. And the interesting thing here is that in a narrative, in a narration, a verb of motion in the stative basically behaves like a past tense. It's not that they were now entered or something. It's just basically a way how to use the arc here in the past, in the past tense. So they crossed the river and they entered the army. And the first half is expressed as a Sejm F, and the second half is expressed as a stative, but the meaning is the same. That's really what Neveu wanted to illustrate here. That with verbs of motion, you still have that old perfective meaning, basically, or past tense meaning.
How would that second one look if it had been a Sejm F? I'm just wondering.
That's
And it would still say ac.
Oxen.
accent, yeah. Could you say accent?
Ah, because it's got the sen. It's got the s first.
It would be like the
Yeah.
first, and I think you could say it honestly. I don't see why not. It's just that the stative can be used. If that's a stylistic thing, I really don't know. Because in Middle Egyptian, I think it's the same. That verbs of motion have that that past tense behavior, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
the stative.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know the stative too can also imply a process that leads up to a state. So maybe they're trying to convey a process leading up to the state of them entering into the ranks of His Majesty's army.
But I agree. If it was a Sejm F, the subject would have to come after the act, not before it.
It would. It would. And it would also, well, it could be said. Could it? I want to make that a U, like W with plural strokes, or a sin. It wouldn't be said, I don't think, in good orthography. What can get a bit tricky is that basically by this point in time, all the third person, well, not all, because you still have F, right, as a suffix pronoun, but a lot of the third person pronouns just become s, and sometimes spelled with a T, sometimes not. It gets a bit messy from the orthography because I think the final consonants had fallen off by that point in time. So I'm not sure if akuset could work, but I would rather see aku or akusen, but I could be wrong on that. Would really have to look it up now, how that word is attested. But
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
this is clearly a stative here.
Could
So
we
yeah,
also say set akse, like a verb of motion? I think you already mentioned that already, didn't you? That it could be treated as a verb of motion.
you could. Then you'd probably want to have like a EU here in the beginning, something like what's going on? Ah, there we go.
To me, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
You see what I mean, right? So EU, and that probably wouldn't be set, but I'd probably say EU. Now I'm struggling a little bit. Would you do it this way? EU's ARCO, maybe?
Um,
There we go. Oh, wow. Sorry. Something like that, I think. EU, Emarco, basically. That would mean and they were entering. So now you've switched the sequence a little bit. They have crossed the river and are now entering. Now you made it like something that's currently ongoing versus in the original sentences, and they had penetrated. So we are in trouble. Even more in trouble. Okay, cool. Great question. Yeah. Now the next one. The next one, it's a similar case. Again, it's a stative being used to describe in the narration what's going on. Anybody want to take this one? Gosh, formatting is a real trouble today. I think I overloaded the slides with too much text.
I'll go again.
Okay.
So we have D, Hinu, Hui, or Hinu.
That's right.
Hinu,
I'm not sure if that's a double N. It may be a double N. I have to
Hinu.
check. Maybe it's a single one. You know what? Let me see what's correct. I don't recall. I know it means to run or to it's basically to walk quickly, to hurry, to haste. And he has it as a single N. Okay. And I'll take the U out as well. He just has Ren. That makes sense.
Hinu.
Tiren, but
Hui,
that's right.
or Ku.
Yeah, but you're absolutely correct. It's Ku, but it stands for what would be the old stative ending Kui. Yeah, that's right.
Ni,
Mhm.
and
And it's the name, yeah, whoever
yeah,
that is. Yeah.
and we have Eru F,
That's right.
Eru F,
Yeah.
Iri F,
Mhm.
Secha F, Sewacha.
Sechaf, yeah.
MD.
Sorry. Sechwaf, I think. Yeah. MD, that's right. Perfect. The original sentence goes on, but I just took the relevant piece for here. Yeah. What do you make out of it?
So we have here subject status. So I ran to so and so. I hastened to so and so to Ramesses or something, or
Whoever it is, yeah. In this case, it's an official, yeah.
and he. Let's see. Is it he who has prepared or he who has made? Wait, Kui Idiot.
Good point. Good point. This is a let me double check, but I believe that's a four radical verb. And there's something with how you with four radical verbs and the verb iri. So the problem is that if you want to form a past tense, a simple ZMF, past tense ZMF from a four radical verb, apparently I didn't like to do it. They like to use basically the auxiliary iri to do to go into the past tense instead. It's a so-called periphrastic past.
All right. So Idi here is acting as an auxiliary verb.
Correct. And I'm wondering if I made a mistake here, maybe. No. The F is correct.
So what does Sechawa mean?
Sehwa is to contest or dispute.
So I guess literally he made a dispute, but I guess he disputed also, or he contested also.
Yeah, the MD is something else though. Do you remember what MD is a preposition?
Yep, you always get me with this. It's the
sorry.
With. I think it means with, right?
It does mean with. That's what it is.
It means with.
So if you just put it together, he disputed.
He disputed with. I didn't see the rest of it. I didn't look down. Okay, here we go. So we have the. Oh no, that's the meaning of the word to contest. Okay.
Yeah. You're almost there.
Oh, there's more. I don't see anything after that. I just see.
That's it. No, that's it.
Okay.
Maybe
disputed with.
Yeah. The only question would be what's the last F? But I can give you that. It's basically it. He contested it with me, or he disputed it with me.
I didn't catch that. Okay, so this wouldn't be. Oh, so we put a dot. See, I'm used to. Okay, see the equal signs and dots are messing me up. So that would be he. Okay, he disputed it with. Okay.
I think
Yes.
I know the story. There's basically that somebody's looking for some redress of an issue and goes to the official where he think he can get redress, and instead what he basically gets is the guy arguing and saying, no, it was another official so and so that did it. I have nothing to do with it. Blah blah blah. That's the situation that's being described here. Grammar point being again narration. In this case, this is a periphrastic SEGMF. So in other words, that's equivalent to a past tense SEGMF. Just that because it's a four radical verb, you use the ed instead to form the past. And over here you have the stative, and the stative again just behaves like a past tense verb. So again, it shows that those two forms, when you're dealing with a verb of motion, they're basically equivalent. They're doing the same thing.
Oh, so the first, going back to the second one. So the first suffix pronoun is the actual subject, but the second one is actually the object, right?
Exactly. This here is
That's
the
what was throwing me
subject,
off.
and this is the object. Yep.
That's the object. Got it.
It threw me off for a moment too. That's why I said, "Oh, did I make a typo? Why is there another F?" But then I realized that no, the second F is the object. And in Middle Egyptian, you probably would have expected a feminine object here because it has to be like, right? But yeah, that's not necessarily the case in Late Egyptian. I think it's normally masculine, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, great work. Cool. So we've talked a bit about the stative. Let me round this off by doing the last one here. So Peter, you know what? I'll write it down as I speak, if it lets me. Consideration, Peter, and look basically and see TUI, I, EU, EUK, and that's again the stative. It's EUKU basically. I have come, Bach, in front of Chati, the vizier. In English, we would have to put an and, but well, don't have to do that in Egyptian. Nasser, probably plural. Who knows if there was a W or not? Since it's not written, I'm going to leave it out. So I've come in front of the officials and sorry, in front of the vizier and the officials. And Kenbet of the court, like the court of law, Paho or Heru, today. So not a very complicated sentence grammatically, but the interesting thing here is if you're like not in a narration, but in a dialogue, not in a past tense narrative, but in something that's currently happening, like for example here, look basically and look, I have come in front of the vizier and the officials. Basically, the stative can also have, how would I say that? Like again, like a stative meaning. I have come. In other words, I am now here. So it's not I went, but basically you can also use it depending on the context to express the outcome of the situation. All right, I think enough on this page. So key message here was stative with transitive verbs means basically some kind of like passive participle, meaning something has been done to you. That's the state you're in now. With intransitive verbs, depending on the context. In a narrative context, it could just be that something was happening. For example, also for other verbs, he has an example with mood, to die, where in a narrative context, it could mean he was dying. But then in a different context, it could also be he was dead. So that's not hard and fast. You have to look at the context, what makes the most sense in translating the stative. And oh, look at that. I have a few examples here for narrative and non-narrative. Again, looking for some volunteers on those. I can help with vocabulary if needed.
Rebecca, you're muted.
TUI 1 Is that one? Wa, tui wa
Yeah.
uk,
Tuiwaku, yeah.
tui waku, hra, pa,
Sorry, coming right back. Yeah. Tuiwaku.
hra, pai.
That's right.
Now that is that nub?
This is sen, like
Sen.
son in Coptic.
So seni.
Could be, but
It's
the
not
the
sen.
the brother by himself is also just written with a little man at the end. So I would just say
Sen.
pasan.
And then I don't know what the blue thing is on the
Mer.
next.
Mer is sick.
Meta.
Mhm.
Right. You see my ignorance now. Tui. Is that as for or I?
I. It's I. Like T in Coptic.
I one.
Right? But in the stative, it has a special meaning. I was being one.
I existed.
Say again?
Existed.
Not quite, no. Good guess, but no.
Unique or soul?
Soul is better.
Only.
You got it now. I was alone, basically. Yeah, I was alone.
Um, um, Ku. I don't. Waku. There. I don't know what ku is.
Oh, cool is just a stative ending.
Sorry.
No worries.
There. Okay. Upon. Is this or my?
My?
My son. So is it brother or
It
is
is.
it?
It is.
Oh, oh, thank goodness.
You got it? No, you got it. And
Then what did we say that funny blue thing was?
sick.
Oh yeah, sick. And so mud.
That's right.
What is that first blue thing? 'Cause I can see the mut and I can see the r.
That is a biliteral that can have two pronunciations.
There's
One
a
of them
fun way to
being
remember it.
Oh, what is it?
It's a chisel, and it's in one of the earliest
Oh
names
yeah.
of the pharaohs. It's in a narmer. It's the nar is the catfish, but the mer is the chisel. So
That
kind
is
of
very
fun.
true. Let's look it up. Nama.
It's in the Steely, the palette.
Oops,
Sorry, not the
LinkedIn.
Steely.
Nama has a LinkedIn page now. I hope he's getting a good job. What kind of? So here's
It's
our unique.
surprisingly hard to find a really nice quality image of that online sometimes. That one's okay.
There it is.
That'll work.
So there's the catfish, like you said, and then here's
In
the
the old
bird.
style cartouche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Great association. Hadn't thought of that. But so yeah, it is murder being sick. So I was alone, heard my brother murder.
Um, uh,
I think
uh,
it's a depiction of a chisel if I didn't say that. Because
Yeah.
I think that's what it's supposed to
well,
I can't see your screen. Did you switch off? I can't see your, let's say, the screen.
Oh, can everybody else still see it, or did I lose it?
I can see it, yeah.
I can
good.
see it.
See it. I was
Hold on.
alone upon my brother. It can't be that. I was alone.
Oh, forget about the her for a moment. I'll get you that in a moment. Her can have multiple meanings. Okay, I'll just say it. Her can be basically the most common one would be and. Um, well, not necessarily as a preposition. As a preposition, it would be a different thing, but as a conjunction between sentences, it means and. But it could also be while, it could be because, it could be although. It's like a general purpose linkage between two sentences, basically. That's why I said don't worry too much about it. But so it could be and my brother something.
Can it be with? Because there's other words that mean and with. sometimes. Is that possible?
You could, yeah. Let's first get the blue part going though, and then we can talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries, no. You're good. So what do we make out of the second part?
My brother being sick.
That's right. You got it. So that's where the tricky part comes in now. So literally it says I was alone while my brother was sick. In English, in context, it probably makes more sense here to say because I was alone because my brother was sick and couldn't come with me or something. That would have to be clear from context. But essentially the her is very much like cum in Latin, which can mean so many different things. It can mean when,
Right.
as, even though, and depending on the tense, of course, it could also be an after and whatnot. So the her is very similar. It's one of those general purpose conjunctions that can imply different shades of meaning, depending on what the context is, which we really don't have in English. Latin has it, Chinese has it, can basically be like any relationship between two sentences, and you just figure out from context what it is. Classical Chinese.
I mean,
Greek definitely has
I
it.
just think of it as upon sickness, because my brother was upon sickness.
It's not a bad way. So you're taking it like a preposition, basically.
Yeah, I just always pronounce it. So is mr, in fact, is sickness, that's a noun, isn't it? Or
No, it's a stative. That's the interesting thing here.
stated. Okay.
So these are really
would
two
that fit?
sentences.
Would it fit then to say because my brother was, as it were, upon sickness, in a state of sickness?
If it helps you to remember it that way, yes. But grammatically speaking, this here is a full sentence. My brother was sick using the stative, just like the first part is I was alone. So subject, stative, subject, stative. This is not a noun per se. So that's what I'm saying. Like grammatically, I wouldn't agree, but if it helps to think of it that way, like as a as a as a bridge, sure, why not?
Possibly this might also be an archaic English thing, like was something with a preposition with the prefix "v," like was um begotten ill, or I don't know if there's any like attested forms, like in an archaizing style, like was not begotten, but like something like that, like was betaken ill or was bequeathed to, I don't know, some one of those
Fallen ill.
types of things.
Fallen ill, yeah, you're trying to get the stative in
Fallen
there,
ill,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to get the stative would make it sound more verbal than yeah, fallen ill's good.
Right, that's right. I mean, you can
Infirm,
definitely
maybe.
go again.
Infirm, like sick.
Infirm.
Yeah, I was just trying because the stative, it sounds in English, in modern English at least, so close to an adjective that it almost loses its verbal meaning that comparing the two languages, I think. So like I am sick, sick is an adjective. It sounds to me like an adjective, but of course it's a stative verb too. So
Yeah, I mean, lots of ways how to imitate the original syntax, basically.
Is there any clue to its meaning from that little symbol that comes after it, which I
Which one
never
here?
quite know what to make of?
So that little thingy here, which occasional member of the server used to be very active, but unfortunately hasn't been able to join for a while. But he called that the death stick, and it just
Kevin,
Yeah, a mooring stick or something like that. Right?
Yeah,
it's supposedly a
looks
mooring
kind of
stick.
like a
Roots, isn't
nightstick.
it?
But I just love death stick because I mean it's in the word for death as well in mood. But apparently here it's also in the word for being sick. It's just yeah, that's as much as I can say about it.
I read somewhere that sticking also is a shorthand way to write the man with the axe in his head. I'll see if I read that in the paper somewhere.
What did
It was
it
like
say?
a
I missed it.
hieratic.
Interesting.
Oh, like a hieratic abbreviation or something?
Yeah, for a man with the axe in his head.
Oh, that makes some sense.
In his head,
mean-
not in his hand. So
Right,
when
hitting
you have
yourself
a
in the head.
wow, ooh,
It's like the
Yeah,
same.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull it up
Angle.
and I'll post it.
interesting.
it's interesting that it's not always like a figure holding a weapon. It's like when you have a figure holding a weapon, it's sometimes it has to do with taxes or something that's, you know, forcing a forceful
Yep.
action, but this is more like an impersonal thing, I
Yep,
guess.
shorthand way of
getting sick or dying.
That's wonderful, but it's also stative because it means he's in a state of having an axe in his head.
It looks like a
Yeah,
bad accident at work, honestly.
Yeah.
in a bad place,
You might want to practice more.
experiencing a state of very extreme discomfort.
It's
might-
it's a kind of exotic way to do harakiri or seppuku. That's
You don't do it right though.
It's so good. If one of you clever computer people can make that into an emoticon when you're saying, you know, I'm ill, and then you just put an axe in your head, or I haven't done my Egyptian, and then he shows an axe.
Oh no. I forgot to study.
love it, love it. Okay, no, that's cool. That's cool. So yeah, so you can see what's happening here. These are both statives, murd and waku. One has an ending, waku, because it's the first person. Murd doesn't because it refers to the brother. If it was I wasn't there because I was ill, it would be let's see, Gerwi Merku, I guess. So the second part, if I had been talking about myself, I guess if I had already appeared in the first part of the sentence, I don't have to say the we again, I think. You don't have to repeat the subject if it's already stated in the first half. I think that's how it works. But take that with a grain of salt. I didn't really do a sentence lookup or something. But in any case, the murder would need a stative inflection ending. So basically the endings which I had on the previous page. K for the first, T for the second, nothing for the third, singular. In the plural, basically the T starts spreading. You see it everywhere. But again, third person doesn't get an ending. So since this is a third person, it doesn't have an ending most of
But
the
the
time.
plural strokes part of the, I mean, I know they're with a determinative, but are they associated with the stative?
Oh, I don't
Or
know.
they just go with that that determinative?
Great question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, honestly. I think they just go with it, presumably, but
I guess that could make sense, like emphasizing the intensity of being sick or something.
could be. I mean, it's tempting to go down that rabbit hole. Like, could it be an unwritten W or something? But yeah, I
Not
don't know.
a space holder, I don't think. I think it's kind of like there's all I feel like it's kind of lazy to just assume that they're just filling empty space
Yeah,
like a horror walkaway kind of thing, but I don't think that's really
I have the same problem. I see that often where they say like that was just a space filler. That somehow doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we do a lot of things like that, but you don't write an extra T just to fill the line. That's not something
yeah,
that you
that
do.
seems kind of silly.
That seems exactly. It seems kind of silly. I don't know where that came from. All right. Looking at the clock. Ba, 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 ba. Anybody want to try the second one?
I can try it.
All right, go ahead.
Ir, Inik, Dui, Sijer, Kui, em,
I'll find it eventually. Sorry. Ir, inek, ti, sejer, kui. You got it. Yeah,
em, uh, Tai, uh, Is, Isbit,
Yeah, is bet. This one I had difficulties finding. Never thinks it means hut. It makes sense in context. It's from a bigger sentence, of course. There is a word is bet thrown. That's clearly not what it is. But yeah, I had a bit of trouble finding the word anywhere else.
and then I guess the meaning, I'm just gonna guess the meaning. I know the first part is a particle. I can't
Mhm.
remember what it means, but it's
S4. Mhm.
as for, so as for me, or
Mhm.
as for I am reclined, lying down, something like that,
Mhm. Right.
in my hut.
That's right. So it's part of a narrative. That's why I offered was lying down, but you wouldn't know that just from the sentence. Yeah, you have it exactly right. As for me, I was lying down in my hut when blah 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 happened, basically. That's right.
Is that word Aspit for hut? Is that in Shipwreck Sailor by any chance? I feel like I've seen like the word hut in the beginning
Oh
of
yeah,
Shipwreck
I know what you
Sailor.
mean.
I don't want to distract too much from the exercise, but thinking of near the beginning, like where he
let's see
goes
how you
into a
say
hut and then
it.
he he's in the shade or something.
Let's see. Could be. I try to remember.
Feel like it might, I know what you're talking about, but I think it might be a different word
I
that
think
they
it's a
use in
different word.
Shipwrecked Sailor.
I think it's a different word.
I think he
but
goes into the bushes, doesn't he, for shade?
um,
Rolled into a
Oh yeah, it's a
clump
different
of bushes.
here you go. Is it this one? Kenny?
that looks yeah.
Yeah. Interior of a
Hobble
hut.
cow.
I think that was it. Yeah, different
Oh.
word. Different word. Wait, there's another match. Let's see what the other one is.
Yeah, that's it. That's the
Ah.
line.
Yeah. That's the one you're thinking of, right?
Yeah.
It was just in one of the exercises in one of the glyph study courses last week or something.
Oh,
That's why
was
it's
it?
so fresh in my mind. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. All right. All the movies converge. Just kidding. All right, well done. That's exactly what it is. What's the key point here? Again, you find a stative to indicate for a non-transitive, intransitive verb, basically. Yeah, just from context, what state you were in. I mean, really not too confusing. I just want to give you guys a few examples for how this works. This one I think we had before, which was nice. It's here spoken by a woman. It's still Tui, but the female version just from the determinative used. So Tui rekerku. I am hungry. Am petrak. To see you. You in this case being a male. I think we had that before in an earlier exercise. But again, that was a stative. So I'm hungry to see you. Cool. Then there's one special verb that Neveu spends quite a bit of time on. I think a whole 2 pages. And that's basically the verb rech, to know. And that one is normally, like if you want to say in the present, I know, you use this in the stative. Because similar to novi in Latin, so noscere is to get to know, to learn, so to say, not really learn, like to study, but to start to know, to be in the process of knowing. It's like an incipient verb.
To get acquainted.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, to get
Yeah.
acquainted. And once you've gotten acquainted with something, then you know it or him or whatever. And so that's why you would say novi. I got acquainted means I know in Latin. And the same thing happens in Egyptian. So surech, rech is the stative in this case. So from I, it would be tuirechku. I have gotten acquainted, or in other words, I know. So that's interesting. That's just a little quirk that you have to be aware of, that you'll most
It's cool.
likely. Say again? It's
Oh,
cool,
I
right?
just said that's cool. Yeah.
It is cool, yeah. Especially since it's like very similar between the two languages. Negation, first of all, I mean, it does occur negated. It has a special form there, boerechef. That's a little bit different from what you would expect. Maybe you would expect ben surech, that does also occur, but this is, I think, the more common form that you're going to see. So a different negation that we'll deal with in the next lesson, bo. It's used for a few specific cases, and one of them is the negative form of I did not get acquainted, or I did not know, or rather I don't know. That's boerechef. You'll also find it with Pupui in like a past tense context. They didn't know, he didn't know would be Bupu or empefrech, basically. Also important about this verb, just like in Coptic this becomes shy. This becomes just a sh letter with the meaning to be able to or can. And it has that already in late Egyptian. So you can say Bu Rechef worship. He did not know how to answer, basically. Or he doesn't know how to answer. So this is reasonably common to use this verb in the sense of to know how to do something, rather than just to know a fact or to be acquainted with something. So when you see it before an infinitive, before another verb, then the meaning is to know how to do something, in other words, to be able. And that lives on, like I said, in Coptic, but the rech has lost its initial R. The ch sound at the end has become a sh. So it's really just like a little infix that you can stick into verbal constructions and that basically mean to be able to do something. Also, rech, interestingly, has the same meaning as in the Bible. It can also mean carnal knowledge, as our Victorians would have said. So basically to get to know somebody in a sexual way. That is also present in Egyptian. Can be spelled with one of those D hieroglyphs for the body part or not. It's an occasional sense. You'll find it in some stories. So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's
I think
interesting.
that happens in biblical Hebrew also with a verb that means to know and also other
Yeah,
ones. So
it's
I don't know if it happens in Arabic, but it's
oh, is
kind of
that
interesting.
right? I didn't know that. Well, that's
I
cool.
don't know if it happens in Arabic. It definitely happens in Hebrew, though. There's a verb that means to know or to know sexually, or the two definitions for it, which is like, oh, those are pretty different. But
Cool. Got it. Yeah,
I
it's
think experiential knowledge, I think that's part of the distinction, is not a knowing a cerebral knowledge. It's a heuristic, they say in nurseries in England, which means they're just playing, and you say they're engaged in heuristic play. So they do it by finding it.
Okie doke. Just wanted to, in one last page, summarize everything that we talked about, with a little twist to it. Namely, so first present, we said you can use it with an adverb. So, for example, what does 3D mean?
I am here, something like that. I am
That
here.
is correct. And now comes the bonus question. How would I say I'm not here?
Who do we need?
Close. You use ben.
Oh,
So,
Ben.
and ben gets the, I think you're absolutely right. I was thinking Middle Egyptian, but yeah, ben 3D is I'm not here. That's right. And funny enough, I'm not sure if it works like this for the first person, but for the third person, ben su basically means he's not here. You don't even have to say D. It's like in Spanish, no está, basically. It's like he's not here. You don't have to say here. You have to say no está aquí. It's basically no está. He's not
it's
in.
similar in Coptic, I think, with poo and yeah.
The copulas, you mean? Like the
Copulas are
pen?
similar, yeah. Like petene.
Oh, I have to look that up. I don't know that.
Petene, I think.
Oh, okay. I have to look it up. Interesting. Sounds like a good follow-up. You can use an adverbial expression. So for example, took en papel, quick translation.
You are in the tomb.
Yeah, or more likely in the house. But
Context is key.
context is key, exactly. How do we make it negative? You're not in the house.
Bin tuik mpara.
That's right. Then took en papel. You can, like in Coptic, put a little an at the end. Iuna is how it's written. So it could be ben took en papel iuna. So like an an in Coptic, but you don't have to. So well done. Next one, tut crescem.
She hears.
Almost, it's feminine, but it's not she, but it is.
They.
You
Did somebody say you?
you feminine here?
Yeah, you're feminine. It's you feminine. It's the bugbear, the one that loses the ch in Late Egyptian, and then in Coptic it's just always a vowel at the end. And you guys may be seeing a pattern here, what I'm doing. So yeah, this is the infinitive form basically. She is upon hearing, or she hears. And now I did it too. You feminine upon hearing, or you hear. Negative, negated.
Bun Sumak. Sorry. Bentutrasajum.
That's correct. Absolutely. That's what it is. Bentutrasajum. You're not upon hearing, so said to a woman. So you just put the ben in front, which is really convenient and nothing too complicated. With verbs of motion, you can use M instead if you want to indicate that something's currently going on. So su emak, he is entering the building or whatnot. And the negative would be ben su emak. Again, nothing too exciting here. With a stative, this one is from Neveu. I think in earlier Egyptian it may have been T, but I'm speaking late Egyptian, so I'm leaving that out. Setwach, she is placed. And Ben Setwach does exist, but Neveu says it's rare to use the stative like this. But that's our first present with the transitive verb. So she was in the state of having been placed. In other words, she was placed. However you want to translate that in English. All right. Tunak, what do you make out of that one?
We have entered.
Right. We have entered, or in narration, we entered basically. Could be either, depends on the circumstances. And what you would use here is you would use the empen perfective as a negation. So we have not entered would be the negative perfect instead. Cool. Let's see, what else do we have? Any guesses for this one?
Tuten hooker too, so you plural are hungry.
That's correct. And if you're not hungry, you just put the burn in front of it again. Burn tuten hooker, you are not hungry. That's right. Perfect. And then comes our little bugbear. They know would be seterech, that is the s with the plural strokes. And the negative is burechu. So this one is that special form, burechef, or I think it's burechu. I must admit I've never seen it in the third person plural, but that's what it should be. So I'll just go with it. Suffix pronoun. So that's a form that we're going to learn the next time. Now, I had prepared a translation exercise. I would say, why don't we just do this one as homework? I'll send that out. It's kind of humorous. I think, Randy, you had asked me what the little is doing here. I was just trying to
I saw your response.
indicate the pronunciation. I mean, it's something like that's what the guy is called. Of course, in Egyptological, we would be saying Para-Hotep or something. I think the name's probably something like Pre-Hatip or Pre-Hatip. So I put a little helping vowel. If that's accurate or not, I don't know. But this looks like Coptic to me, basically. He's writing to somebody else. The guy's name is Ken Khepshef. That's the addressee. And the message itself is kind of humorous, so I'll leave that as an exercise for next time. And we'll just send it out. Yeah. And then I would say, apart from that, after the exercise, let's move on to lesson number 17.
Thanks, Aurelio. Go and have a stiff brandy.
Well, no, thanks everybody for sticking for the extra long 2-hour session.
Thank you. It was great.
It was really fun. And
Yep, thank you.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Take care.